the financial system has been exploiting workers for centuries. Marx was right. And when people are pushed to living in below freezing temperatures, months on end with no stimulus, and reduced to, poverty, they realize they have nothing to lose but their chains. My previous video I talked about how gullible Americans are, which I still stand by. Many Americans still believe that America is a democracy, believe it or not. Even though we see elites living above the law, and we have a government full of people who have Jeffrey Epstein friendship bracelets, they would have you believe that everyone is subject to the same rules and regulations. I watched some of the GameStop congressional hearing, the House Committee of Finances, or whatever it's called. Because a lot of the Congress members who are on the panel of the House Committee of Financial Services own Raytheon stock, Lockheed Martin stock, are heavily invested in the oil industry and other stocks, but they're the ones who are going to curb Wall Street. Same thing that's happening now happened in 2008 and the financial crash then. Bankers who have really heavily leveraged themselves and, thought they were too big to fail, betting on, credit default swaps, mortgage credit default swaps. Capitalism only works for the top 1%, and everyone else becomes exploited. The minimum wage hasn't risen, but rent has increased in America's largest cities. The cost of living has increased, but Congress is just, powerless to make Lyft, Uber, Target, Walmart, billion-dollar companies pay their workers more. They just can't seem to do it. That's so funny. I mean, despite the fact that the congressional members own stock in Uber, Lyft, Walmart, and Target, and their profits would go down if they paid their workers more. Heaven forbid, rich people pull their weight in this economy. But, it's capitalism. You have to, throw your hands up. Laissez-faire. There's price discovery. You gotta let the market do what it wants. Even if it means, exploiting workers to the point where people have GoFundMe insurance. The government doesn't have to pay insurance. The government doesn't have to, make sure its people are healthy, safe, warm, in the midst of a pandemic. All the government has to do is make sure that their friends in private industry don't have to abide by regulations that would hurt their bottom line. Protect the free market. Because the free market's best for everyone, right? That's why minimum wage hasn't increased. That's why workers are allowed to be scalded if they dare to sit down in the retail business. But if you point out any of these glaring deficiencies of capitalism, that it allows the exploitation of workers, that it profits off of the depletion of natural resources, that environmental concerns cost hedge fund managers and family offices money, you'll have 10,000 Elon Musk fanboys up your ass about how capitalism is the most efficient economic model. But if you look at the number of people who are homeless, on food stamps, rely on government aid, and are being exploited by their employers, it just increases every year. The government cannot find a way to address homelessness or find a way to fund education or find a way to increase the quality of life, provide health insurance for Americans. They can't do any of this, but they can increase the militarized industrial complex's budget, but they can increase the number of contracts that Raytheon and Lockheed Martin receive, but they can find a way to deregulate the oil industry so that the oil industry can reduce the life expectancy of people near their fields. But, increasing minimum wage, that's out of a question. And you have to ask yourself, is it really a Republican, Democrat, red, blue issue if, um, you know, Democrat controls Congress and Republican controlled Congress can both fall so short of accomplishing the same thing. They both claim to be on the working class's side, but have done nothing to increase minimum wage. Democrats and Republicans claim to care about the average American, yet you haven't seen the average income or anything like that increase.